now rocking with
Okay. And then as we wind down, he started to talk about how, when he was attempting to convert his wife, that, she was asking him about the corruption in the Bible, and he couldn't find it. Well, really? Well, here, I'll show you. Let me show you some corruption in the Bible. Okay, first of all, there are two Bibles. Okay, the first Bible that came out was the Catholic Bible. The Catholic Bible has 7 more books than the Protestant Bible. When the Protestant Reformation came about under the teachings of Martin Luther, okay, the Protestant Reformation came about, and they took those books that the Catholics had, threw them out of the Bible. Now they have the Protestant Bible. Most Protestants like to use the King James Version, okay, which has less books than the Catholic Bible, okay, has less books. There are books in the Catholic Bible that you will not be able to find in the Protestant Bible. So that's right there, a corruption. People taking things out and removing these things. On top of that, take a look at this. Take a look at these verses here. This is from the Revised Standard Version, okay? Here in the Revised Standard Version, look at these verses where they are admitting that these particular verses were not found in the most ancient manuscripts. Okay, you understand that? These verses, they are admitting to you, they were not found in the most ancient manuscript, meaning the oldest Bibles, the oldest Bible manuscript that they have on record. There are verses that in the earlier manuscript, the most earliest ones that they could find, do not contain verses that are in later editions of the Bible. That means somebody added verses in. That means somebody was tampering with the Bible. People started to add verses in. And here they admit, here is Christian Bible admitting that these verses were not found in the most ancient manuscripts. So right there, there's an example of corruption right there. There's an example of corruption right there. Okay? You turn to the book of Jeremiah. Okay, the book of Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 8. Right there, Jeremiah admits it, that the scribes had turned the law into a lie. He says it right there. The pen of the scribes have turned it into a lie. So there we have proof from both New Testament and Old Testament of people of biblical corruption. One, Jeremiah admits it internally that yes, here it is right here. And then you have New Testament Bibles admitting that here there are verses that they admit that they could not find verses in the most ancient manuscript, meaning somebody had. And then he goes on, he quotes John chapter 2, 1 John, which says that he who denies the Christ, he who denies that Jesus is the Christ, meaning he who denies that Jesus is the Messiah, is not of God.
And when I read the Bible in 1 John 2:22, who is the liar? He who denies that Jesus is the Christ. He is Antichrist that denies the Father and the Son. So the essence of Antichrist, or the spirit of Antichrist.
Interesting. Do not the Jews deny that Jesus is the Messiah, the Christ? So it's interesting that you quoted that verse, but yet you stand foolishly strong in support of Israel, who does in fact deny that Jesus is the Christ. Isn't that hypocritical? You want to condemn Muslims, and as a matter of fact, we acknowledge, we agree, we say that he is the Messiah. The Muslims confirm that Jesus is the Messiah. In chapter 5, verse 75, it says the Messiah, Son of Man. So right there, the Quran confirms that Jesus is in fact the Messiah. But what about your Jewish friends? What about your Israeli friends that you unconditionally support? They do not acknowledge he's the Messiah. They, as your verse says, they deny that Jesus is the Christ. And therefore, according to your Bible verse, they're not of God. But yet you're head over heels in support of the Israelis. Is everybody noticing what I'm noticing? Is everybody starting to notice what I already have noticed in my research to do this video? This is really amazing. Okay, and then the last thing he talks about, he starts pushing this fear-mongering about nuclear war with Iran.
They will not be able to fight on all these fronts. America will be forced to use its nuclear missiles.
Iran is trying to get, look, everybody, look. The United States has enough nuclear weapons, estimated That's enough, according to scientists, that's enough nuclear weapons to destroy the earth that we know as it is 30 times over. Okay? 30 times over. No other nation has that power. Maybe Russia will come in second place. But the nations with the most nuclear weapons are not Muslim nations. You have enough nuclear bombs to destroy the earth that God gave us 30 times over. And you want us to worry about somebody who's trying to get one? You want us to be scared about somebody who's trying, who doesn't even have it, who's supposedly trying. Meanwhile, you have enough to destroy the earth 30 times over. And then when I look at that, and then I couple that with your history of colonialization, imperialism, racism, bigotry, your willingness to push other nations around, your history, both the United States and the Western powers, England, etc., logic would tell me that we should be worried about you having nuclear weapons. After all, you are the only people to ever use nuclear bombs on a civilian population, not once, but twice. So if people want to think logically, you would have to say that these people should not have nuclear weapons, as their history has shown that they have been very aggressive, genocide against the Native Americans, racism and suppression and oppression of African Americans, the systems of apartheid in South Africa, colonizing Africa after the Berlin Conference and the Middle East, right? Colonizing Asia, America taking over these places after the Spanish-American War, taking over Puerto Rico, the Philippines, Hawaii, and all these other places like that, right? So based on that, logically thinking, I would say, man, you know what? You don't need to have nuclear weapons. Again, you are the only people in history to ever drop not one, but 2 nuclear or atomic bombs on a civilian population. You didn't drop it on the Japanese army, you dropped it on the Japanese civilians. So when you talk about, the threat, maybe you better look at your own history. Maybe you better think about what you've done. But see, that's the problem. You guys don't like to think about what you've done. Your history is too, your history is too bloody. Okay? You guys claim that the Muslims are the ones, who are the bad guys. Well, if that's the case, then that means the Westerners must be worse, because the Westerners colonized the Muslim nations. If the Muslims are the worst people according to you people, then if you can beat the Muslims and colonize them, obviously you must be worse than them, right? And this is according to your logic, right? So again, you claim that the Muslims are the most barbaric, whatever, but yet you colonize the Muslims. The British colonized Egypt. The Italians colonized Libya. The French colonized Algeria. So, you know what I mean? So, if these people are so bad, and yet you colonized them and you subjugated them and treated them like garbage, guess what? That means you're worse. I'm out, brothers and sisters. This is the end of the refutation and the exposing of Mr. Walid Shoebat. And hopefully, for honest viewers, that this video and the way that we've exposed him with the proof, hopefully if you're an honest person, you will have to say that this man does not have any credibility, and his speeches and things of that nature, people need to just avoid them. His credibility is shot. Okay? With that, I'm done. I close out. I say assalamu alaikum to the brothers and sisters.